So here I am with again with one of my favorite people, that wonderful man named Mike Koppas. Mike and I met for the first time just less than a year ago. Mike has had an extraordinary career in many different fields. If I recall correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, he's an attorney. He's worked in philanthropic fields for the longest time. Now, I believe at the Foundation, University of Hawaii. He studied with the registered life planner community. He came and he took the most difficult course we have, which is also, I think, the most inspiring course. And he had the courage to do it with his wife, Michelle Tucker, who's another one of my favorite people. And so she's going forward to be an RLP. That's really her background, a registered life planner. Mike, I know, has incorporated a lot of the listening skills into the work he's done, and done a number of other things that I want to mention in regard to the audience that is listening right now. He hosted one of the first independent Golden Civilization conversations in the world. Certainly one of the first that I have not been party to. He brought together a number of people in Honolulu. Maybe we'll hear a little bit about it, he and Michelle. And that happened right around the time that we had the March 4th movement, to March 4th with the book. And so we might touch base with him on how that was and everything. And the other thing that I'm really delighted to keep up with Mike and Michelle, because they offered a year ago, and now that they're bringing it to fruition, to host a number of events on Oahu in Honolulu, which is for those of you who don't know Hawaii, it's the big city, obviously, in Hawaii. And so we're going to have a number of Golden Civilization conversation events in January. And I am so excited. In fact, Mike, I bought my tickets today.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so
fantastic.
So really glad to have you here. If I made any mistakes on the introduction, please let our audience know. How are you?
I'm great, and it's really good to be with you. It's wonderful to see you again, and we're excited for you to come in January. We're working on trying to get some things set up that will be fun and educational for the world. It's been a wonderful journey to follow up on the months since we were with you in Hana. So it's been good.
Yeah, bring me up to date. What is
well, so when we came back from Hana, so we were with you in Hana last early December.
Yep.
For those people online who don't know about Hana, Hana is one of the more remote spots in the Hawaiian Islands, kind of a lovely paradise on one of the wild coasts of Maui. And so we enjoyed that week, but we came back quite inspired. I mean, really, I was so taken by multiple things that happened to me there, not the least of which was my ability to actually do some meditation, which I had really kind of been in resistance to for a long time. But we came away really believing in what we're doing, and the training itself was quite inspiring to see people come alive the way they did. But to finish it with your desire and your authentic desire to bring the conversation of planning to the globe was something that we bought into. Yeah. And so I think it was the Sunday before the March 4th day, we had about, I think, maybe 12 people in our living room. We had another couple who had also been through the training before us. One night, by the way, we were at a legal event, and we were sitting at a table, and lo and behold, there were 5 of us at the table who had been through your training. And
no.
It was quite remarkable. We didn't know that, and that kind of led us to come together and host the house event. Yeah. And so we had a crowd of, the youngest was probably 24, and the eldest was probably, I don't know, 70, probably me. But, it was really very pleasant. We had educators, we had some people who worked in government safety, students, and it was a really lively, wonderful conversation. And it's amazing what people come up with when they think about what's working and not working in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really very, we felt good about it.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh, I really wish I could have been there. I
Oh
hear some.
yeah, it would have been, that would have been really wonderful. You know, it was actually pretty easy. We had a few poo-poos, that's hors d'oeuvres in local language,
Yeah.
and so we had that, and we just made it pretty relaxed, and you know, it wasn't that hard. We had a whiteboard and just kind of worked through the ideas that people were popping up and tried to come up with you know, our basically life, you know, our vision statement by the end of the day. So it was quite good.
Wow, fantastic. Well, it is, as you're describing it, it's, I mean, I want to say anybody can do it, but I don't want anybody to think that Mike and Michelle are just anybody.
Well, you know, I think really the key to it is that you give a really nice sort of a flow chart on how to do it. And really beyond that, anybody that is a thinking, caring person could just follow that sort of flow chart and ask the questions and lead the people into the discussion. Because what you're really looking for is to get people to really speak from their heart about what it is that they would like to, the world they would like to see come alive, right? And you know, obviously working with obstacles is an interesting part of it as people try to figure out, well, what's going wrong, right? But it's clearly many things are keeping us from accomplishing, you know, that vision for the world that we want, right?
Yes.
And so, but it's really a fruitful conversation. So I think anybody can do it, really, if they just, the hardest part is just getting yourself to energize to do it, right?
Yeah.
To make the invitation, set up the place, you know, that kind of thing. And so,
right.
Like anything, you got to have a little stick-to-itiveness to make it happen. But you know, it works. It's great.
Yeah.
Anybody would enjoy doing it.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun, isn't it? It's
yeah, very much so.
You know, as opposed to your normal kind of around the dinner table conversation, if you even get to politics, because you know, the politics
Right.
can be like this, but if they're all of your ilk, even that is not as enjoyable as this because it's not visionary. It's mostly complaining.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And that the conversation keeps you from that because you're trying to focus. Everybody is trying hard to, nobody wants to be controversial. They just want to, you know, speak what they feel. And it works quite well. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, I'm inspired, and Honolulu would be a wonderful place to give one of these.
Well, let me share with some of the folks what we're doing there.
Great.
So when you arrive in January, we're going to have a lunchtime conversation with the university crowd, and it's going to be co-sponsored by the Matsunaga Institute for Peace, which is a sub part of the College of Social Sciences at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. And so we're gonna have a room in the East-West Center, which is kind of an international. It's not actually a part of the university, but it's adjacent to the university. And so we'll be there, and we'll host that. We'll have a little lunch, and we may not have time for a full Golden Civilization conversation, but certainly it will be an interesting mix of students and faculty and invited guests. And so that's going to happen on Thursday.
Wow.
And I'm also going to put you in the room with some students at the College of Business.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So
wow.
I think the director of the Certified Financial Planner program there is familiar with. She wants you to call yourself kinder, by the way. So,
I get that a lot.
so Rosita will work out something so that you'll be addressing students and/or alumni there.
Fantastic.
Probably during the day.
Fantastic.
And then we'll finish it with the last thing we definitely have planned is a client event where you'll have a couple of hours with a large group of Michelle's clients. And so that'll be on a Saturday luncheon kind of thing. So you'll have at least 3 opportunities, if not more, to spread the news of what a golden civilization might be if we could get people to talk about it.
Wonderful. Well, maybe we can really start a movement there. That would
We would like that. We would like that. I mean, certainly the places should be a receptive audience. The university, I think, is a good venue.
And I think so too. And it just sounds exciting. I've worked with, it's been surprising to me. I thought that business schools would not be necessarily the best place because they would be mostly thinking about corporate ventures and going off for. But I found them to be among the most inspiring places that I've been. And I think there's an idealism there, but there's also a sense of let's make it happen.
And they're very entrepreneurial. They want to see something happen, and so hopefully that'll come out in a good way. And so we just got to work out some timing, but everything else is on track. So
fantastic. And the East-West Center is, I mean, that's legend. That's a legendary place.
Yeah. It's a like I said, it's not a part of the university, but it's sort of it runs on federal grants and other things like that. But basically bringing people from around the world to the university to study basically international affairs of one way or the other, bringing East and West together, which is obviously one of the goals of the university here, to bring East and West together, the economics. And it hosts many, it hosted an economic forum with President Obama a couple years ago when he was still in office. And, it's been a long time, very influential part of the community here. So it's a beautiful little spot. We'll be right next to a very lovely gallery of international art which rotates, and it'll be a good spot for you to come to visit. So
wonderful. Do you know, I think my old mentor who passed away a few years ago, Kenny Brown, was on the board and a major figure there for a period of time, and so I've always been eager to go. Will we just be renting a room there, or will some of the institute be there?
My plan will be to publicize it to. Obviously, you would think that's an appealing audience to come. So we'll have a limited space. The room is only going to have space for about 30. Okay. So we'll certainly put up information in the East-West Center, and so that. But all of the young students who are there from around the world live in a dorm adjacent to the East-West Center offices, right? So and it so happens that Michelle's daughter's a graduate student right now living there.
Oh, fantastic. Wow.
So we'll post information for the students, we'll post information for the East-West Center, we'll post information for the university community. So hopefully we'll have a full house, and it could be from anywhere. I don't know where they'll be from. We'll just have to kind of wait and see who shows up. But
fantastic.
So that will be. You'll enjoy just even wandering around the East-West Center. Good spot.
I am so excited. I'm so psyched about it.
We're excited to have you. Excited to have you.
Yeah.
Give me another dose of energy here.
There we go.
Here we go. That's right. So let me share a little bit about how I've been trying to apply life planning, the basic skill to my work in philanthropy, right? Wonderful. And I have yet to adapt it in all the ways I would in the full process, but essentially, just asking people to open their hearts to what's possible if they got rid of all barriers, right? And just let's forget about the barriers and talk about what's possible, right?
Yes.
It's been really good to just open a conversation that way, to give people the entire, just an empty board to say, this is what I'd do if I could do anything to make the university and the community a better place, right?
Wow.
It's been good. I'm still working on how to have it fully integrated in what I do, but it's helped me a lot. The whole process.
Wow. Sounds like that step alone of just opening the field. So it's not just about the money, but it's about really.
Well, yeah, exactly. So let's forget about the money and just talk about what you'd do if you had no limits, right?
Right.
Endless amounts of money, right? And so that gets people to be really sincere about what they think. Then you learn what they really do care about.
Exactly. Right. Right. And I think the other thing that I've just imagined, because I know this happens, is that all the listening, all the challenges around listening,
Right,
pausing, and all that
right,
stuff
right, right, right,
that
right.
we do in that training, I'm
Yeah,
sure that everybody is now speaking much more and sharing because you're,
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's good.
yeah,
Yeah,
uh,
it's all good.
yeah, great, great, great. Well,
Well,
anything else you want to share?
well, I'm excited. When you told me you'd been to Mumbai and Singapore and Tokyo, taking the golden civilization conversation to those um, sort of exotic locales. Tell us about that. What was it like to speak to an Indian audience in Mumbai?
Well, it really was amazing. And you know, what I'm doing is I'm getting invited because you know, my reputation is mostly in the financial world.
Right,
So even though you know, my passion is much more in the
right.
meditative world and the spiritual world, listening, and now really engaging to make almost a utopian vision come true for humanity. So I get invited to these conferences that are financial, and they invite me to give a keynote speech. And I'm eager. I'll go. You know, if they'll pay my way and they'll give me something,
Right.
I'll come. And what I do immediately is that I try to figure out ways that I can bring in all of these other areas to the invitation. So I got invited to Mumbai to give a speech at a conference. And out of that, I created a breakout session. I created like what Michelle's going to be doing with her clients. I created a client event for someone I trained before. I created a whole day of workshops
Wow.
around listening skills, meditation, and golden civilization conversation, and all with this incredible Hawaiian community. I mean, Indian community, and so several days of events coming out of just one keynote, and
That's really neat.
it was wonderful.
What was the typical audience like? Were they business people or were they
Yes,
um, so
yes.
English speaking, I presume, right?
English speaking, absolutely. And they were there was one group of clients, and those clients were extraordinary people. The registered life planner who brought me together with them had gathered a community of people around him that were inspired because he was delivering them, as we do in life planning, into their life of greatest meaning. And
Wow.
so they were inspiring figures. They were singers, musicians, they were teachers, professors, they were entrepreneurs, and all of them were, when we talked about the golden civilization conversation, I think the thing that I was most impressed with was how aware everybody is there. I mean, we think of it from where we are, but they're aware of the income and wealth inequities
Oh yeah.
that are, I mean, we're aware of it in America, but gosh, how much worse it is in India. And they're passionate, not only about, not passionately concerned, but when it comes to action steps, they were the most action oriented around, let's do something about this. Let's take this on. Let's make a difference. So
Well,
that
that's
was,
so interesting. That's so interesting and good to hear because they really do have incredible discrepancies in life opportunities in India, right? They go from the
huge.
extraordinary, you know, with extraordinary opportunities to people who are really have none.
That's right.
And you know, so it's a very interesting community that way. And
Yes.
so I'm thrilled that you were able to do that.
It was a thrill for me, and the keynote was a modest size. It was 400 or 500, maybe 500 people, still good size.
Yeah.
And I
Nice.
taught and a lot of them. I mean, here we are in India, and you'd think they'd all meditate. Well, most of them don't. You know, most of
Yeah.
them are trying to become technologically savvy, Western, liberal,
Right.
secular, and so they've let go of. But you know, their auntie does, and
Right.
their grandmother and grandfather did, and they still go to some of the festivals. So it's part of their culture. And one of the things that was really exciting was they understood very quickly the map of mindfulness. You know, they
Oh, I
have the
get that.
cosmological understanding that,
Yeah, I think that their culture is very much they understand that mind expanding kind of look at the world, if you can just, so I'm sure it was a fascinating place to have that conversation.
It was, and the other thing, Mike, that I was thrilled with was that when I asked people at the end of the Golden Civilization conversations, the three or four that I had, one, two, three, four, I think I had four. How many of you, if we were going to do this again in a month or 6 weeks and deepen with this work of creating a golden civilization, how many of you would come back? Every hand in the room was
Wonderful. Wonderful.
amazing.
Yeah.
So it was inspiring. And then, the other place that when you mentioned Singapore and Tokyo, Tokyo is one of my favorite places because I've been very indebted to the meditation practices of the Japanese community. And of course,
Yeah.
you and I know just great people of Japanese ancestry in Hawaii, of course.
Right.
So that's been kind of part of my culture for many decades. But so that was wonderful. But what was the other culture that I went to that you didn't mention in this trip was Hong Kong.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I was there and I took films and I put it on Facebook of right outside my hotel, the demonstrators were walking along. And I was so moved by what they were doing and their passion for democracy. I ran downstairs. I had a meeting and I said, no, I've got to go down and I've got to meet these people. I've got to see them. And I went down and interviewed them down there as they walked past and interviewed people on the sidelines who had work to do and they couldn't, but they needed to, they were paying homage as well. And I'm terribly worried now. We're seeing news of China mobilizing forces and all of that. All they want is democracy. And it really was what they were promised 22 years ago when they
right. The freedom to be what they want and need to be. Yeah.
And it's, I think it's shameful that Carrie Lam and the authoritarian community there has not just said, look, we'll give you all of these things that you're asking for, and let's have a dialogue around the rest. I mean, they haven't given a thing, not a thing.
Yeah.
And so the news you get out is the tear gas or the rock that's thrown, which is very, very rare. But it's enough for China to create propaganda around it.
Right.
My friends here who are Chinese, my acquaintances here who are Chinese, mostly are getting, are on online services that are run by China because they have their language. And all of those services are talking about hooligans. So when I talk with my friends here who are Chinese, who are not educated, among the educated Chinese, they all go, oh, I don't understand. What do those kids want? They're acting like hooligans. So anyway, it was very moving, and there were tears in people's eyes as we talked about a golden civilization. The longing for freedom, what I discovered in that trip, the longing for freedom extends all the way from the poorest of the poor in India to through democratic freedoms, all the way to the deepest spiritual freedom of meditation.
Yeah, I guess that's the interesting part about it. There's so many different levels of what we think about as freedom, just internally and externally, and nations and families. And there's so many different ways that we approach that. And you're able to see it that way. Everything from, like you said, the poorest of the poor to people who are just striving to have the ability to just live a life where they can work and do the things they are capable of doing without being told what to do. Right. Or to have the freedom to do things the way they see best to do it. So yeah, it's a very interesting time, and it's really, we need to keep people expanding their desire to talk about it, because it really is about sharing on a one-to-one level. Because as people, we don't do that very often. We talk about the weather, we talk about sports, we talk about whatever, everything other than what's really, deep inside you, right? So
Yeah.
this process, and I congratulate you for giving people the opportunity to open up their hearts and share what they really do care about. And it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And so that's worth doing. If you haven't done it out there, who's ever listening, give it a shot, host a little conversation, right? You'll find that you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the pitch, Mike. It does astonish me. And listening to you, hearing it, it's all really about the conversation.
Yeah, it is, and it's like, and something we get so caught up in the day-to-day routine of just the demands of day, and work and family, that we don't ever really talk about those things. And so to set aside an afternoon to talk about nothing but that is pretty fun and exciting.
Yeah, pretty dynamic.
Yeah, very much so.
Well, great. Well, we're coming up against the end of our time here. Is there anything remaining that you would like to share, or
I just I really the reason that I went from practicing law to doing philanthropy is because I really wanted to do something meaningful in my life, and the last 10 years of doing that has certainly been the most rewarding part of what I've done. And so I just really, when I went through the 5 days with you and all the others from around the world, to talk about how we open our hearts to a bigger vision for life, was really, it was so wonderful to have that experience. And I thank you for that. And I'm encouraging anybody who has an interest in that, to think about how they do that with themselves, to open up limitless possibilities for what is possible if you just allow yourself to get your routine out of the way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike, not only, I mean, it was a thrill to see you go through that and see, and there's always vulnerability around it.
Yeah.
And as you said, the meditation piece and all of that.
Yeah. The lawyer in me thinks in boxes, little lines and boxes in charts, right?
Yeah.
And so it's so much better to not have to have that. And so that's why I'm trying to finish my life doing something that's really rewarding in a different way. So
it's beautiful.
Thank you for inspiring me.
Well, it's beautiful, but there's also, I want to remind you, there's not only the lawyer in you, there's the lover in you, and that's who you brought. You brought your love, and I mean, physically, you brought your love as well as inside yourself.
Oh,
And that was a wonderful gift for all of us.
Well, thank you for inviting me and letting me attend. So, and so just keep on doing what you're doing, and keep talking to the world, and keep growing this whole idea of a civilization that is golden. We'll get there.
We'll get there. We're going to do it.
One time, one place at a time, one family, one household at a time.
There we go. And coming up almost next, very soon, Honolulu.
Yeah.
Here we come.
We can't wait.
All right. Give my love to Michelle. Thanks.
Will do.
Thanks so much.
All right, will do.
Okay. Bye.
Take care. Aloha.
Aloha.
All right, bye-bye.